welcome back to another episode of her Gypsy Soul Podcast, The Stories That Bind Us. My name is Jacqueline Van Beerk. I am your host. I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm an artist, I am a composer, I'm a lover of life, and a traveler. I'm currently in Michigan. That's why my background is not as funky and fun as it usually is. I left Los Angeles a while ago, actually in February. And so I've been going slowly, making my way to New York, then to Germany. I can talk about that in more detail at another episode, maybe. The life of a traveler, cross-country traveler. My entire house is currently in my car. But I'm loving it and I'm exploring. And I think if you get a chance, I highly recommend it. Anyway, I love bringing people together through storytelling, and we are so much more alike than we are different. And I keep saying that because it is the truth. And I love that many of my guests end up connecting with some of the audience members and people that are listening in. And there's always something to learn from somebody else. And what I love about today's guest, her name is Katie Ferrara. She's a singer-songwriter, and she has been in this business for about 10 years. And she is such a self-made, always hustle bustle artist that I've always admired because of her work ethic, of her ability to adjust and always learn and adapt and change. So with no further ado, I saw one of her posts recently and I was like, I need to have you on my podcast because I want to talk to you in more detail about it and let people hear your story. Anyways, with no further ado, here's Katie. Hi, Katie. It is so great seeing you and so awesome having you. I know you for many years through Mark to Planet LA Records. That's how we met and actually connected. And we were both on a record with them. When I always wanted to see When Planets Align, but that was actually the album. That was a separate project with Mark. The Lovers and Angels, a musical, rock musical, which is like so awesome. And we did a couple songs and we did a live performance. That was amazing. But recently I was on Facebook and I saw one of your posts and I was like, man, this girl is always on fire. I just love how you're such a indie artist, do it yourself. You always find a way to just make things happen on your own. You don't wait for things to happen. You busk, you do live stream, like you do so many things. I would love for you to share with people that are artists and maybe they aren't as, resourceful as you because you have the experience and the knowledge, and I love your mindset. I think you have an amazing mindset that is so important in being in this industry and being an artist, So if you would love to share a little bit about your journey, where you came from and where you are now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. And yeah, I wrote that post that you saw just because I just felt like, now more than ever with COVID, a lot of artists are kind of giving up. I definitely kind of went through that. All my gigs had gotten canceled last year, and I struggled to, know exactly where my place was. And I also had a lot of time to reflect on, okay, what is success in the end, and I think something that I wanted to touch upon that you mentioned was your mentality, because I've been doing this like, for 10 years, over 10 years, and um the longer I do it, the more I'm like, well, it's not really about like, making money or being famous, or I mean, all that stuff comes with, the art. Like, when you're successful, you can achieve those things, but to really be abundant, you kind of have to have the mentality first. And I think, when you're a young artist and you're starting out, the goal is like, be famous.
I
You're
know.
supposed to, yeah, you're supposed to be on The Voice or like these TV shows. It's a popularity contest, and in the end, like, actually know what makes you a memorable and a really great artist is, I mean, you have to be technically good. You have to like really practice and learn your craft. But I also just think that if you're a good person, like the relationships around you are really going to be what lead to your success. So, that all starts from within. And I think especially, when your identity is like kind of taken away like it was in the last year or so, you wonder like, well, who am I
Yeah.
underneath all of like this that you see me, sitting here in this chair, like who am I behind, all my makeup and the clothes that I'm wearing and my guitar, like who is Katie?
Yeah.
I think we forget to question that. But yeah, my journey as an artist, I guess, well, where should I start? Like, what should I?
Well, I think that I've always admired from the day I met you. You just get up, play your guitar, and just do your songs. It doesn't matter where you are, you're always ready to go. And then you also have an endorsement, you did the looper, and I just admired like your work ethic. And I know this is all you just doing the work. It's not like, oh, you just got lucky. You just put yourself out there. And so what was there ever a time where you were not in that spot where you were really shy and I don't know if I'm good enough to just like get up in front of people, play my guitar, or was that kind of natural to you?
Yeah, I've always been a shy person. I mean, that has been like the one of the biggest things for me to overcome. I remember like I always wanted to sing, earlier than when I was a teenager. Like when I was, in fourth grade, I remember I sang, it was like the Titanic song, My
Was it?
Heart Will Go On, right? Yeah, I remember singing that for my aunt, and I was in fourth grade, and I was like, I like sat in the living room and like sang this to her, and like that was one of the first times I had kind of broken out of my shell and was like, oh, I really like singing, and I let people know that I liked singing. Um, you know, shyness. Well, yeah, and then I think, when I was in high school, I had another point. I joined choir and I sang, it was like a solo when I was in choir. We were given like, in a song, you
Yeah,
get like your own
yeah,
like
yeah,
phrase or something
yeah,
to
yeah.
yourself. And I got to sing that. And then everybody at school was like, oh, I didn't even know Katie could sing. So, it's like little baby steps like that, and influential people in your life that kind of make you think differently about yourself.
Yeah.
um and then in college, I really wanted to play music. I ended up getting my degree in psychology. um I think because I've always been really interested in like, I don't know, social interactions, like how to like my own family too. Like I'm interested in like, okay, I need to heal myself and I'd like to heal other people. So I think that's kind of what drew me to the subject. um but I think like it's just crazy because I've always wanted to do music, but it's always been something I had to fight for. Um, because when I was in college, I thought like, well, I'm not going to make any money off of this, so I'll just get something practical like psychology. I'll go into teaching or something, and um, I just always kept going back to it. In my free time, I would be playing guitar. I'd be sitting in front of YouTube and learning like covers. I'd be going to open mics. But I think what really did it for me was the fact that like I think as an artist, you reach a certain point where you're like, I just need to express myself, and I don't care what the roadblock is. I'm going to overcome this, and I'm going to find a way to do this, because if I don't do this, then I'm going to regret this like later down the line. And I, starting from me in like fourth grade to teenager to, I'm 25, and I'm like, if I don't go for this now, then I'm never going to do it. I think that's what really fueled me to work really hard and just do anything. And the busking thing, every interview that I do, I always tell people like, well, that's how I got my start in music. I just went to the Santa Monica Promenade and started playing out there. Um, I mean, I really think for me, at least, like it. it was a breakthrough because I started making money, but also like I was just in this emotional state where I really needed to express myself.
Hmm.
And the streets are wide open. If somebody doesn't like what you're playing, it's not like you're on a stage where they can throw tomatoes at you or you know I feel like I kind of lost my ego a little bit, and I gained some humility just like playing outside, because I thought I was the shit. I thought I was like so good at 25. I'd play shows in Hollywood, and I do open mics. I had an EP out then, and I thought I was a great musician, but I look back at some of these recordings and I'm like, ugh, no, I sound terrible. I didn't know anything. And that's why I'm like, well, because I had made this mentality like, oh, I'm going to practice every day. I'm going to go out and play the same set list. And even if I suck, even
Yeah,
if I'm bad, even if people listen to me when I'm sounding like shit, like, you know,
totally.
you kind of get over that. Like, okay, one day you're going to sound really bad. And then the next day you're going to sound great. Like, I did a gig yesterday, and I mean, honestly, like, I don't think I sounded very good. My guitar is like out of tune. I'm tired.
Oh man.
You kind of have to get over that perfection. You're not always going to sound perfect. um when you're playing there, you're going to have on days and off days, and if
Absolutely.
you have a bad day and you're sounding like crap, it doesn't mean you're always going to sound like crap. You're gonna sound great the next day, or you kind of learn to like tell yourself like, okay, what were the good parts of this gig? What did I enjoy about this? And then you focus on that. And I really think like part of pursuing your passion is, what do you choose to focus on every day? Do you focus on like, oh, I'm not good enough? Am I like, not talented enough? Oh, I don't know how to read music, or I don't write good enough songs. Or do you focus on like, today I wrote in my journal and I wrote a whole page and I brain dumped everything, and I listened to some really great music, and I hung out with some fun people, and that inspired me to start jamming on my guitar. Like, there's so many things that you could focus on
Yes.
that make you feel like you're moving forward in your career. And I also remember, like, when I was starting out too, I'd always have this conflict between telling people what my profession was. They'd be like, well, what do you do for a living? And I was like, in the middle of, do I say I'm in teaching, and do I say I'm a substitute teacher, or do I say like I'm a musician? And it was funny because like if I would say musician first, like it was a weird thing to tell people. When you're first starting out, like you don't want to tell people, oh, I'm an artist, or I'm a producer, or I'm so and so, unless like you're famous, or like people really know you, or you have like a few albums out. But if you don't have anything out, like most people just think, oh, you're kind of unemployed, and you're in your mom's basement, and you're
Yeah.
like
It,
a
it,
loser.
oh, they ask you, I get that question when I say I'm a musician. They're like, are you famous? I'm like, well, if I was, you would know me. But, I always say, like, well, I am to some people. But
Yeah.
it's true. I think it's our confidence, when you're like, oh, can I say that? Am I supposed to own it, And you,
Yeah. It's like it's hard to get to that point where you own the title of musician, and I just feel like, well, you just have to say it, and really believe in it. Like I remember talking to one of my friends. He was like, you fake it till you make it. You
yes,
kind of
yes.
you have to do that in the beginning, even if you don't have much to show for it. It's like also writing your bio. I remember writing my music bio in the beginning, and I'm like reading these things like Ari Herstand talks about, how to like write a story or come
Yeah.
up with some sort of spin on who you are as an artist. And you know I kind of understand that now, um, because you're always going to be like reworking your bio, and you need something to start with. And I never had anything to start with. I was like, I'm Katie and I play guitar, and here's some of my influences. Now go check out my music. Like, I didn't really know what to write.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's always something you rework, just like your brand too. Your brand doesn't have to stay the same
No.
throughout your whole career either. You dye your hair a different color. Your hair's pink
Yeah.
right now, so
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
You
It's so
can
true. I
change.
think it's easy for us to get stuck. For me, like I think we all have identity crises at some point in our career, right? Because we want to change, but then we're a little bit afraid because we're like, well, will people like me if I change the direction of my music? There's so many things that sometimes get in your way that could really stop you, when in reality, nobody would even care. People just want to see what Katie's up to, and if Katie goes from singer songwriter to metal, they might be like, oh, cool. Didn't expect that, they may lose some fans, but don't be afraid to change for sure. I agree
Yeah,
with that. I agree with that.
yeah. You
Rebranding.
can you can change over time.
Hmm. Hmm. How
Yeah.
did you end up getting your endorsement for the Looper? Because that was pretty cool. You were at NAM, right? You would perform.
Oh yeah. Are you talking about the TC Helicon
Yeah, yeah,
vacancy?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I think it was through one of Mark's events.
Mm,
Mark from Planet LA Records.
yes, yes.
He holds those events at NAM, and I remember talking to one of the representatives, artist relations representatives, and I mentioned, oh, I go busking, and I wanted to make my um, set, more interesting because it was just me and the guitar, and I saw a couple other artists playing the pedal, and so I said, I can make you some videos using this thing. So I remember it was like uh well, I guess it was no, it was December actually, not January. I think it was right before NAM actually.
Mhm.
And I had made it was a holiday tune, like The Joy That Seasons Bring. I wrote this
Mhm.
song and then I got my friend to film it on his balcony and I sent it in, and that was the kind of like the start of a relationship with this brand. I was able to make some content and like really good looking content and then show people like I'm actively using this thing in all of my sets. I'm taking pictures and posting them on my Instagram. I think brands they really like artists that can genuinely connect with people that are probably going to buy their product. It's
Yeah.
better than you know sending your product to someone who's not really going to do anything with it. Like I think they could see that I was actively like out there and interacting with people on a daily basis. You know,
And
that's all it really is.
how brilliant of you to offer to make content for them, so that you brought value to the table. You weren't just like, oh, give me something, I can
Yeah.
I just want it. No, you showed them, hey, I can promote you by using this, and that is a brilliant business move
Yeah.
and building relationships. Yeah,
Yeah. I didn't even think of it like as a business thing. I was just like, oh, I see how I can be helpful in this situation,
yeah,
or it wasn't like, oh, how, can I get something from these other people?
yeah, yeah. That is awesome. And that's
Yeah.
how the industry works anyway. It's about, like you said, relationships and just being genuine and authentic,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. So how have you been able to sustain yourself? When was the point where you said, okay, pandemic is going on, I can't really do my gigs now, freaking out, right? What was the point where you decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do, because I'm an artist and I'm Katie who always finds a way to make things happen? When was the switch, and what did you do to really keeping engaged with your fans?
Like during the pandemic.
When everything kind of closed down and all your plans were like out the window.
Yeah, I, kind of switched to doing live streams. I was doing live streams on Facebook. And then I was also getting into remote recording as well. I bought this Chaotica ball. Have you seen this thing?
Oh, wait, is that for your mic?
Yeah, you put this over your microphone.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, so you can record at home, and so I'm not like in the best treated room. I mean, I've treated this wall, but
Yeah.
the whole room isn't treated, so this kind of solves the problem. So I can take this anywhere and record. um, but it's been great because there's tons of like people recording from home now,
Mm.
and they need vocals. And so I put up on my Instagram story, I said, "Hey, I just got this Chaotica ball. Is anybody need vocals?" And I got messages from like some DJs and producers, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we'd love to have you sing." And I mean, it was just as easy as that. I kind of just said, "Hey, I'm available. Anybody need vocals?" And then opportunities started coming along. So I was able to, sustain myself doing some remote recording from home. And I had to learn. I had to learn a lot about the technology too, like not just Logic. Kind of getting used to opening up a session and recording with what I have, but also like for live streaming too, I had to learn how to use OBS Studio. I don't know
Mm.
if you've used that before, but
I haven't. I heard about it, but I haven't. Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a learning curve to it, and a lot of people they use it for Twitch, um, or other live streaming sites. So you can put like overlays on your screen and have lots of interactive things going. So I feel like also as an artist, you kind of have to constantly be updating yourself on the new technology and what's available. Also, TikTok, I started getting into that.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, I've mostly used this past year to do writing. I think also as much as I love engaging my fans, I think there was a turning point for me when I thought, well, I don't constantly have to be hustling all the time, because like that I think that works in the short run, but in the long run, you're going to get burnt out.
Totally.
And so I think the people that really enjoy your music and you for who you are, they're not going to mind if you take a break from your social media. Like, say you need a month and you're like, okay, I just want to work on recording. I mean, that's when you kind of know you have a fan base and you have people out there already. And I think it's better to like nurture your super fans and cherish those relationships that you've built over time, instead of constantly trying to go for new fans all the time. There's always going to be new apps out there. I mean, TikTok, for example, Twitch, for example. Yeah, there's a possibility that you could meet all of these new people, but it's like, what about the people that you already know who already support you? You know, so
Yeah.
it kind of just made me think about, you know, engaging with fans. Like maybe this is also an opportunity just to really build stronger relationships with the people who have been supporting me over the last 5-6 years of me doing all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I know sometimes I'm on Instagram posting stuff and I'm thinking, they don't pay me. I sh- I should focus on the people that are actually interested in what I'm doing and really serve them more and build better relationships with them. And sometimes we forget that because we think, oh, we have to always be out there to be seen, to be heard, because there's so much pressure, I think, from, you know, especially when you're more on social media, because then you see everybody else doing stuff and you have to remind yourself, like for me personally, where I'm like, you know what, no, I don't have to post every day. I don't have to share every minute of my life.
Yeah.
It's not even healthy, I think. And also you at some point people don't even really care, maybe, like, so there's a fine balance, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance. And I definitely think like um you know different artists have different ways of being successful. Like some artists do really
Yeah.
well by having a schedule and
Yeah.
posting on every platform, but they usually have something to promote. If you're just posting on every platform and you don't have any new music out, it's like, okay, like what do you want to prioritize at this time?
Hmm.
um do you want to prioritize your image, or do you want to prioritize making your art? And then your goals are going to be different from somebody else. So you can't also like compare yourself to all these other artists doing things online, because they all have different goals and different reasons for being online in the first place.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
So which platform would you say works best for you when you are doing your live streams, or do you do them simultaneously, like all at the same time, just plug it all in, like this camera is Facebook,
Yeah,
this camera is YouTube?
Honestly, I really love Facebook, and I love that
Okay.
they introduced the stars, that so people can give you, they're kind of like bits like on Twitch, or
Oh,
on Periscope. When Periscope was still around, we would get hearts. So stars are kind of the same way. They allow you to make money from your streams.
oh,
So
nice.
yeah, you can
Facebook.
actually, yeah, Facebook stars. It's a program that I think you can apply for it on your music business page. um, but you can have goals for your stars, and that kind of encourages people to donate more. You can post like your PayPal or your Venmo up. And Facebook's more like performance based rather than like, oh, I'm just sitting at my computer and like noodling on my guitar. It's like, oh, people want to watch when you have an online show. it,
Hmm.
it's more curated versus something like Twitch. My experience with that, Twitch is, it's just kind of laid back, it's just fun, and you can be in your pajamas like jamming and not really doing it, and just talking with people, and that's
That's so
fine too.
interesting. Yeah.
It's just a different platform.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that is so interesting. I didn't know that. Um,
Yeah.
I personally haven't done either actually, but I always find it interesting. Like different platforms work for different people, you know. Um, I mean, TikTok, I still don't quite get it. I'm like, I got all these views, but my followers are not growing. But whatever, like it.
TikTok is like the lottery system. You have to go viral on it. I mean,
Yeah, it's just so strange. But
yeah.
so you were just in the studio. So
Yeah.
are you currently working on a new album? What are you up to right now?
Yeah, so I tracked a bunch of songs last year. I've got about 9 songs tracked that are going towards a new album, and then I'm working on my next single. It's gonna be a like kind of like a jazzy type song, and it's got a claymation video. So I found an artist in Italy, and he is like animating clay to the
Oh,
music.
nice. I love that. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So he's just finishing that up. I'm having him put like the lyrics in from the song. So I'm probably gonna drop that single like in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and then
Mhm.
I'll do a pre-order for my album. And then the stuff I was working on tonight, that's gonna be for like another EP. I'm just trying to like record as much and make a bank of songs that like I can have, because I know that when everything starts opening up again, I'm not going to have time to record.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't have time before the pandemic. I was always like, yeah, I'm going to go into the studio, and then just be too busy or too tired. And that's why I was saying like it's been, I kind of liked like the quarantine. So I'm like, well, we can't go outside anyway, so I might as well just
Yeah,
write songs and record. When am I going to have a chance to do this?
yeah, yeah. That is very true. It's funny because I do a lot of composing, so I didn't even mind it because I'm in the studio a lot anyway. And if I'm out, I'm usually out with my dog in the park. That hasn't changed much. How do you feel about everything that's going on in LA, right? Because you are actually born in LA, right? Yeah, you're like
Yeah.
the natives, like
Yeah.
the rare people.
Yeah.
How's it going right now over there?
It's good. Things are opening up again. And, I think Los Angeles was one of the cities that was probably more slow to open up. I saw like some musicians on Facebook, they'd be streaming, and this was like 3 or 4 months ago. Like someone was in Florida, and I had another friend in Texas, and they're already just playing out. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's not fair.
yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah, I was a little jealous. I was like, okay, well, it'll happen for us soon. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, but it's yeah, getting relatively back to normal.
Mm-hmm. That is great to hear, actually. Do you have already things lined up, or it's still kind of like all pending?
I've got some summer gigs lined up, all the way up until September.
Oh,
So
good. That's
everything is, yeah, coming together.
awesome. Um, share a little bit of advice on what artists, I know from your post, you're talking about, the things you should be doing, like, and it's not like this is what you have to do, but that could be really helpful if you want to sustain a career in in this industry that is ever changing and
Yeah.
evolving, and it's just, we never know what's going to happen, but the only thing we can do is our best, right? what
Yeah.
what advice do you have for people, because I loved your post.
I'm actually going back to the
Yeah,
post
yeah,
because
please, because it was just like, I thought, yes, she's
I was kind of just ranting and I'm just like, what did I write in this thing?
I love your rants because your rants are super long, but they're not boring. Where when you really go for it, and I love it because there's first of all, you're so honest. There's no holding back, and I love that about you because you're just like, here's how it is, here's how I feel, and take it or leave it. But that's
I
my
love that.
point of view, and more people should be like that, because a lot of times people don't want to speak up, or they feel like,
Yeah.
oh, life is not fair. um, when in reality we are all the creators of our own reality and of our life, and it's up to us to make things happen. And when something doesn't work out, well, then you take a detour. But I love
Yeah.
the post, I loved all the things you were saying, so if you want to share some of those points.
Yeah. Well, I think I was talking about how to be a secure versus insecure artist. And I think we all battle between both. Like nobody's secure the whole time and nobody's completely insecure. There's things that we always need to work on. And I wrote this because um, I've failed a lot. I've done a lot of dumb things.
I think we all have, and some of us don't want to admit it, but we all have.
Yeah.
Understanding.
Okay. Yeah, making hasty decisions. So that was one thing I put on the list that, when you're an artist, like if say a producer comes up to you and is just like, okay, it's going to be like $3,000 a track. Do you want to spend that $3,000 on one song? Is that a good business model to have? Because I've definitely met those producers out there and I'm like, I feel like there's this pressure on us because you see all these other artists and you're like, well, I want to put my music out and it has to sound really good and professional. And the thing is, you might not even be at the point where like you're even able to spend that much money on a track. Like that's a label budget. And if you're an indie artist, like why is this person even asking you to pay $3,000 a track? Like it just seems fishy. Like you kind
Yeah,
of have to shop around is what I'm saying. If one person quotes something, don't just step on the first thing that is given to you. Like ask a bunch of other producers. And the other great thing about the internet is that you can do your research now. It's not just about, oh, I met this person at a party and so they're trustworthy because I've met them at a party. I'm like, well, you could meet like 5 or 6 other producers on Instagram or something and schedule meetings with them and see what their rates are. You
hmm
know,
hmm
they need you more than you need them. You kind of have to have
absolutely.
that mentality. And a lot of the time, I think we're told by the industry, like, oh, this is how the industry works. You have to kind of kiss up to, these publishing, these sync licensing companies. That's another thing. Like, I remember I took a class, this was like a few years ago, and they're all talking about how to write emails. And I think this is really good. You want to write a professional email to the person who's going to be shopping your songs. But, you know, just the way that they were talking to the artists in the class, it kind of just made everybody in there feel like, well, I'm not good enough. Like, this person's making me feel like I can't do this on my own. Like I need them for something. It's like we almost have this like toxic relationship with like people in the business. And it's like, wait a minute, no, I am worthy. I can do this on my own. You need me. I don't need you. And if more artists start thinking like that, then,
Absolutely.
then we stop getting into these relationships with phony bookers and phony photographers and phony producers, filmmakers
Yeah,
who don't even know what they're doing and are charging you way too much money. And then you're like, I can't even get my art out because my overhead to just be an artist. I'm not even an artist anymore. This is like an expensive hobby.
yeah,
Like when you start having that business mindset, you start realizing like, oh, I'm in charge.
yeah.
And, you know, I'm not going to be taken advantage of by people who are telling me like what my worth is. No, I determine my worth, not the other
Absolutely.
way around. I put
Yes.
on here, um, you know, yeah, about learning gigs, being a drama queen or king,
God, yeah.
spending time with popular people. That's another thing. Like, um, I think it's important to be in LA because you definitely like we wouldn't have met each other if we,
Oh yeah.
we're in LA. I think it definitely helps with relationships, but I think too, in some ways, I felt like my experience in the music industry has been a replay of my high school. Like everyone wants to hang with the cool kids and the popular kids.
It's
I
so
remember
phony sometimes. It's just it's nauseating, you
it's
know?
nauseating and
Yeah.
it's funny and it's like you just realize once you see through all of that, there's like a whole new world and a whole new level to explore, and you really get into just the point of making art. You're not doing it for anyone else, you're doing it just for you. You're doing it because you need to express yourself and you have something to say. And just because you go to like this songwriter showcase in Hollywood or whatever, and like maybe people don't clap for you, maybe they're like talking over your song, and like that kind of stuff. I mean, it still annoys me, but it still annoys me when
So
people talk over me.
I know. I feel like, why are you there? Because
Yeah,
singer songwriter, it's not a loud rock band where it's like, you can talk and nobody would notice. It's just a rude thing to do. It doesn't matter. Then leave the room. But
I
to
know.
be in there and just talk over artists, I always feel so bad because I'm like, that is just like the most disrespectful you can ever do to someone.
I know.
You
I
don't go
was
to a meeting and talk, blah, 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 blah. You're in a meeting to let that person who has the meeting and is speaking talk, you know.
I was thinking about that situation because I've been in that situation many times, and I think yes, okay, it's important for the audience to be quiet, especially in a songwriter venue. But I'm also thinking too, um, even if the audience was talking, and it's like you have this expectation. You can't go into a gig having expectations
Right.
because you're going to be let down. There's going to be that poo-pooer, that one person that's like just super loud while you're singing, and it's like, are you going to like call it? I mean, you can call them out. I've seen people do that on stage. They call them out, or you could just, I don't know, you get over it. You can't take things
Yes.
personally. It's like at the end of the day, I am doing my art for me and I'm not doing it for everyone else in the room. And that's when the tables turn and everybody else in the room, they just shut up because they're like, oh, this person's up there enjoying themselves right now. They're not doing this for my approval. Like, it's so weird. Like, I've definitely had that experience. Like, when I'm busking, for example, if I'm like, oh, I need to make like $100 tonight, I'm going to play all these songs, all these hit songs. Like, I'll do that. And some songs I know I'm going to get tips, but sometimes, like, I think people, it's like they can sense it subconsciously, like I'm desperate or something. Like, I
Right.
need, like,
Totally.
need
Yeah.
to make this money right now. I need to show off. And then when I'm just like, okay, fuck it. I'm just gonna play. I'm not gonna take requests from people. I'm just gonna play whatever song, whatever. I'm gonna get into the feeling that I'm in right now. And I close my eyes and I sing. And then somebody will like put money in. And I'm like, why are you putting money in? Like, I'm not trying. I'm just doing this for me, and I'm just
Right.
enjoying this. It's the same thing on stage in a venue. It's like you're so into it. And I think people like watching that
Yes.
because they find it really really difficult to do that themselves. Everybody's wearing a mask and everybody's like in a job that they don't like or doing things that they don't like doing, and then they see you and they're just like, how did that person just become naked on stage? Like,
Yes. Yes.
how did they just do that and not care what I think? And at that point, you're like, oh, okay, like that is success as an artist. Like, you're just completely vulnerable. And you could be sounding terrible at that point, but who cares? Like, you're doing it for you, and not everyone can do that.
I
So
was going
that's,
to add to that because you said it perfectly. You empower others by doing that because they realize, wow, I would never, like, a lot of people think that being on stage is really scary for them, so for someone to be up there and they're having a great time and they don't even care, at some point you get the attention by that, because I think it's that thing when you ignore something, they just chase you versus you chasing something and it you know,
Yeah.
it's that kind of energy that
Cat and mouse.
yeah, and it's empowering for you as an artist, but it's also empowering for the people in the audience because they admire that.
Mm.
Giving them something, that, because I remember playing with a band where one time I was like, oh my God, I just want to leave. Like nobody was paying attention, but there were these mirrors on the sides and I was like, oh, I look pretty good. I was like, checking myself out and having a blast. And the next thing, like you said, the next thing that people kept coming and like having fun because I just had a blast. I was like, you know what? Fuck them all. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, you want to play pool over there and totally ignore us? Fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be up here. This is my stage, and I'm gonna have a blast.
Yeah.
And that is the right attitude to have. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like you can never take it personal because
Yeah.
you don't know what people
You
went through. And
you bring the party. The people in the room don't bring it. You're the one who brings it to them. I think that's so important too. Like, because there's a big difference between playing a show and then doing these. I do a lot of cover gigs or like events where people are like taking requests and stuff. And at that point, I'm an entertainer and I'm kind of catering to them.
yeah,
But I think as an artist, like you don't always have to cater to the people in the room,
yeah,
because it's also about respect at the end of the day. Uh, or even if you're doing covers too, it's always about respect. Like if you don't want to do something, you don't have to do it. Your enjoyment it should be the most important thing when you're performing.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
agree.
what I think. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I could go through more of the things
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing.
I want to hear more. Like I loved everything you were like listing. There was some juicy stuff in there.
Holding resentment, having a win mentality, and seeing others as competition. I think, where did I put it? I just moved. What did I do with the post? Let me go back. Yeah, seeing others as competition. I think, well, the hardest thing when you are in the scene is um, not seeing people as competition. Like you have to see people um, as collaborators, and you have to see their value. Um, so again, that's also going back to like seeing yourself as valuable, because when you see yourself as valuable, then you realize like I don't need to copy somebody else or be like somebody else. Like I'm fine just the way I am. um and I think as artists too, like we start out, um when you're learning a song, you copy an artist that you like, and that kind of, there's like different levels. Like an amateur is someone who plays music. The word amateur means like a lover. Like you do art for the love of it, right? So like you're playing music because you just really love the sound of someone's voice or their style of guitar playing, so you copy that. Versus being inspired. Oh, okay, that's what I wanted to get to is there's a difference between copying and being inspired by someone. Copying is comes from this very insecure place. We're not all the time insecure, but maybe you're just learning. You're learning how to just interact and figure out who you are, and we're versus,
Exactly.
yeah, being inspired by another artist, for example. um that's when you kind of take their idea, but then you change it and you make it into something new. And it's like you're always acknowledging like that person that person's influence on you, but then you're like making something completely new. And I think in order to be inspired, you have to collaborate with other people. You can't see them as competition, because when you see them as competition, then you don't really make anything new. You end up copying. I guess
Yeah,
if you're like going to make a chart out of that, you don't really go anywhere.
and it's not very inspiring to just come from a competitive place, because then
Mm-hmm.
it's not. somebody said that you're either competing or you're creating. I think Bob Proctor said that once, and that always stuck with me. Where I'm like, yeah, you're either creating or you're competing, and so
uh,
I love that.
yeah, it's like, what would you rather do? Would you rather compete or create? We're always like competing in some way just because it is the music industry. I mean, you have these music contests out there where, maybe you're submitting your stuff online, but I mean, I always think competition, it shouldn't be about the win or lose.
Right.
Competition, if it's healthy competition, you see somebody else and it kind of encourages you to put out your best self, and that way you get better. So yeah, your end goal shouldn't always be about winning. It should
Yeah.
just be like, how can I put up my best self in this particular situation? And then that way you get inspired by somebody.
Absolutely. And I love when you said healthy competition, because that's healthy competition when you think, oh my God, I'm so inspired by that. I want to write a song like that. Not because I want to beat them and be better, but because, oh my God, I really loved the song structure or the production, something new that I haven't done yet that I want to explore. And that's a healthy competition, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's healthy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, I don't know what else I could say. I've got post selfies for attention and quick likes. I guess I touched a lot on like social media.
I'm always impressed. Like, it's so weird. There was like a few people that I used to like look up their profile, and there was this one guy with a beard, and I swear to God, every day he posted a picture. It was the same picture, different background. It was so weird, but he would get like hundreds of likes, and I'm like, I don't get it. What is it about this person? Like, it was just like, a little different angle, but it was the weirdest thing. I'm like, hey, good for you. Yeah, I hope you're monetizing this in one way or another. But yeah, it was weird.
That's so funny. I think, well, maybe he got all those likes because it's the algorithm. The algorithm likes consistency.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
likes selfies. Um, yeah, his brand is just beards.
It was so weird. At
Yeah,
some point, I was like, why am I following this person? Like,
I get it. Yeah.
I don't even like beards. It was like weird.
Me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had some great points there. I know you had a ton more, but I understand. Like, you're just like, what else was I saying?
Yeah. I guess, okay, to be a secure artist, or someone successful, you create community. That's another thing I wanted to touch upon, is when you build your fan base, bases aren't about numbers. Like, you could have maybe like 10 to 20 fans, and that's way better than having like 100 people that don't care about you. you know um I think as artists, we are leaders, and we're the ones that create that community. Like, people get drawn to music because they're looking for a sense of belonging somewhere, and there's so many different ways that we can create that online or at a show, or um you're doing a podcast right now, so it's like you're just creating a way for people to connect with each other. um so like, and if you have that mentality, then as long as you have that mentality, like anything that you do that has to do with your music is going to build fans and relationships. So like, I don't even have to be doing music. I could be baking cupcakes or something, or I could be like, sometimes I do like streams where I'm just like cooking in my kitchen, and maybe I'll play one or two songs or something, but people tune in because they're like, well, I just want to feel like I'm a part of something. And
I love that. Yes.
yeah,
This is kind
having
of like
that.
hanging out. It's hanging out. Like, let's come over to my house virtually and hang out, right?
Yeah,
Like we're at a party.
yeah.
I
But
love
I definitely think, yeah, that's something that I've noticed is as the successful artists, they do that. They create that
Yeah.
sense of community with their fans instead of like, oh, here's my 100,000 followers on my Instagram or Spotify. I've got all these plays on my Spotify. Like that's great, but you know, do you know any of those people? How many of those people actually like bought your music or like,
Yeah.
you know?
And Spotify is too, it's not like the people on your mailing list because you don't even know who these people are.
Yeah.
That's actually not a good thing.
Yeah.
Because what if Spotify goes away tomorrow and you had like 1 million followers? Who are these people, right? Like,
Yeah. I think it's a different game. We've got two different industries going on. We have the Grammy industry and then we have the indie music industry.
yeah, yeah,
And the indie music industry sprouted from the boom of the internet, you know, like the early 2000s
yeah.
with MySpace and then what do we have after that? And then we had like Napster and the downloading. You could download your music. Well, really, yeah, MySpace is kind of like what
MySpace
started
was
all.
the biggest thing. Yeah, yeah,
And so you know that's kind of when the labels were like, oh, we don't own artists anymore. And so, you know, in some ways, it's kind of a double edged sword because I feel like, okay, there's like more work that we have to do,
hmm,
but then we also get more freedom. It's just a different approach at looking at your music versus like, you know, if you're signed to a label, that's when the Spotify plays matter. That's when,
yeah,
you know, numbers matter. So I guess yeah. Again, going back to like your goal as an artist, like what do you want to be? Do you, if you want to be the Grammy award-winning artist, then your approach with your music is going to be totally different
yeah.
than an indie grassroots indie person.
Hmm.
You
And I
know?
think too, wouldn't you agree when so many people still want to get signed? And I feel like, do you even need to get signed? Because if you manage to get all these followers on Spotify and you did all that work on your own, and the label comes in and just wants everything, right? Like 360 deal, and you go, wait, like I paid for my recordings, I paid for all the
Mm-hmm.
releases, which people don't understand that even though it's digital, you still have to pay for mastering, you still sometimes pay for the studio, you're still paying for um, distribution. There's a lot of,
Yeah,
for your website, for your certain social media sites you pay. So it's not even Spotify Pro you pay, or like if you want YouTube Pro you pay. So these kind of things add up that are costs. So is it worth having a label and maybe dropping you or putting you on a shelf while you could be just doing your thing? And with all these different platforms available now, in a way I agree with you that it's never been a better time if you're really willing to
yeah,
hustle, if you're willing to hustle.
yeah, exactly. So we might as well use what's available to us and just find your own voice too. I think that's the most important thing is when once you know like who you are and your brand and you're just authentically yourself, then the fans will come and the money will come and you know you just have to have faith in that.
Absolutely. Um, you just did
Oh,
like
it
a live
froze.
stream
Okay.
2 hours yesterday or the day before. You did like a 2 hour Facebook Live that
Oh yeah, it was yesterday. So I had a gig yesterday.
yeah,
So I streamed the gig.
awesome. How did that go?
That was good. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I love hearing that because I know that Facebook is not always friendly with artists. So you saying that makes me actually really happy to hear because
Yeah.
that's a good sign. Besides music, you are such an interesting person. Do you have so many? Tell us about more about like who is Katie when she's not making music? Like what do you love to do, and what's your secret to staying so beautiful and healthy? And what do you do?
um I like going biking. That's like my new hobby. I got
Ooh,
a folding bicycle.
oh,
Um
nice.
yeah, it's I want to show you that. Well, I don't know if I could show it to you on the
Yeah,
video.
if it's big enough. I mean, if the screen is big enough.
Yeah, okay. So this bike This is my bike. Maybe you can see it. Let me lift it up. Ugh.
Oh, nice. Yes.
So this bike folds in half.
That
And
is so badass.
yeah, you can fit it in your car. So you don't have to take the wheel off, the front wheel. So I've been taking that to the beach and then just biking around like in Santa Monica, or
Oh,
I'll do my groceries. I like going to farmers markets and then like I put a basket on the back so I could put like my food and stuff.
oh, I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
You go in the mountains with it as well, or not yet?
I can't go in the mountains with it because the wheels are kind of thin.
Okay.
It's mostly like, like a street bike
Yeah, yeah.
and stuff.
But that's badass that you can fold it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm really into the biking, and then I got my tarot cards. I don't know if you see my I got
I saw something over there. I'm like, I think it's like something magic. I knew something magic.
my friend. So I did a stream, and my friend Kevin, he like got really into it. Like I wasn't like streaming my music. I was streaming like learning about the Rider Waite cards last.
Oh, I have those too. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I got he got me this box to put them in.
I love the box. Yes.
I thought it was cool, but yeah,
I love that deck. Yeah, I have that too. I have three different
yeah.
ones.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had like a coloring book, so I was streaming like myself coloring the cards and then telling people about all the different meanings.
Ooh.
That's how I learned about like the tarot cards. I'm really into them. I'm like obsessed now.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So that's like a little bit of me. Well, I wonder what decks do you have? You have Rider Waite and you've got
I
what
have
else?
that, and then I have in I don't know the name of it, and I have it in the back of my car. Otherwise, I would pull it out right now. It's gorgeous. It's like it's a very different artwork. Like whenever I draw those cards, I actually like have to like double check. Is that the like the wands, the cups? Like it's really hard. I don't know what the name of it is. I should know it. I don't know, but it was like one of those really artsy ones that I got at on Ventura Boulevard at that store. What's that store called? I keep wanting to say Pan Pipes, but Pan Pipes was like in, in Hollywood. Um, I can't remember right now. But yeah, and I have another little, they're smaller. They look really cute too. Like, so I have like three, the one you have, and then I have two other ones, and I love them. But when I moved, I had books accompanying them so that I could look things up, and I now only have one book that, and I'm still learning. I'm not great at it. I do readings for myself sometimes, but I look online, like I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
try.
I still do that too. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, what's Biddy Tarot? Biddy Tarot is a really great website. I'll look up some of the definitions. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
okay, cool.
I do the Lotus Tarot. But that's good to know.
Lotus.
I want to check that out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have the fairy cards, the Brian Froud fairy cards, which I
Oh, pretty.
absolutely love. Yes, so
Uh,
that's like my favorite. Oh, I love that though. I have to see. I have to like pay more attention to like catch one of your streams. That,
yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely post. I usually put it on my personal page on Rose, and I'll say, oh, I'm streaming at this time at Katie Ferrara. So yeah, I'll message you next time I.
please, and tell us what's coming up next, so that we know where to find you, and also where to buy your music and how to
Yeah.
support you.
So yeah, like I said, I have a single that's gonna be coming out in the next few weeks. It's called "We Are Here," and there's also a claymation video that's gonna be coming out with it.
Can't wait to see
Um, yeah, it's super cool. And yeah, if you want to be updated, you can find my music at Katie Ferrara Music on Facebook, or at my website, katieferrara.com, on Instagram as well at Katie Ferrara Music. I'm also on YouTube, and then Twitch, and I'm on TikTok as well. Oh, and the Haps app. The Haps app is a new live streaming app that I like to do. So check me out on all those platforms.
Oh, wow. I have to check that one out. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining and for sharing your story and your exciting new music coming out that I'm really excited to hear. And I wish you the best. And we will talk very soon. And everybody else will find you in the description below. They'll find your links and they will connect with you, I hope.
That sounds great. Yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much for having me, Jacqueline. Yeah.
of course. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Take care. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by, for being part of this, for listening to the podcast. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. And don't be afraid to reach out to my guests, contact them, collaborate with them, become friends with them, share more stories, have coffee. I just love bringing people together. So with that said, thank you so much. You have an amazing, wonderful weekend. I will see you next week. And I will leave you with a song of mine as always. And also, if you are interested in getting one of my shawls, I have a mega special going on right now. Buy 3, get 1 free. Because once they're out, they're out. I'm discontinuing this run. So grab yours while it's still available and spread the word. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe. And I will see you next Friday. Thank you so much for being here. Take care. When you feel alone, left behind, tired of being strong, walking on thin ice, long for a shoulder, a friend who cares. When you're knocking on doors, but no one's there. Baby, you've got it all wrong, seeking the answers outside yourself, swimming shallow waters. Who'll be the one you don't have to hide from? Love you just the way you are. Who'll be the one always by your side? Appreciate all your pretty flaws. When it's hard to hear, can't stop the noise, everything's unclear, and it's numb inside. Maybe I've got it all wrong, seeking the answers outside myself, drowning shallow waters. Who'll be the one I don't have to hide from? Love me just the way I am. Who'll be the one always by my side, the one I can lean on no matter when? Hold on, darling, don't give up. Hold on, darling, don't give up on us. Hold on, darling, don't give up. Hold on, darling, don't give up on us. I'll be the one you don't have to hide from. Love you just the way you are. I'll be the one always by your side.